can't think of the word. Things
The
starts with
Great
R or
Green
something.
Wall.
All right, we got a couple of newcomers to the
All
chat.
right, we got a couple of newcomers to
You
the
know what?
chat.
Since we got this going on, I'm gonna. Should I stop playing my game?
It's up to you.
Are you guys gonna turn your cameras on?
Uh, I already have mine in my stream. It would cut it from my stream.
Right. So the answer to that question is no. So I'm gonna keep playing my game then. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're fine.
See the program. I use a program that actually lets me stream go on both ends. Actually,
On a
Yeah.
serious note, though, I gotta
Yeah.
see about upgrading the internet potentially in the future. Right now, it's only 10 megs, so I can do some stuff. But on the Twitch panel, like Saturday was it? Oh man,
oh yeah,
I
it was
closed the
bad.
window. It was so bad. But on Whereby, it was fine.
Whereby was weird because mine on my end I was completely 100% smooth,
Yeah.
but on Steven's end it was like three. I had to redo it like 3 times. I think come in three different times because it kept
Well,
messing up.
blacking is a fun conversation.
So I don't.
Okay, so
Whereby has it.
so someone told me that you critically thinking vegan. So someone told me that you
Critically
you,
thinking
Veteran.
vegan.
He is not a vegan.
Vegan. Critically thinking vegan. Vegan.
It is repetitive. Very much.
so
Call
someone
him a
told me that
vegan.
you
Dude,
thought
what are you smoking?
So someone told me that you liked that you had like a take on nuclear or whatever, and you said that you think we could plant trees in the desert to make it not desert.
Yeah, bro.
Could you expand on that?
All right, so here's the deal. With the use of nuclear reactors, we can do a lot, right? So if we set up the infrastructure to pump millions of gallons of seawater from the sea and desalinated it in a nuclear reactor, and then took this fresh water and pumped it out to the desert, we could set up the environment to be able to plant trees and create the rainforest that was once there in the Sahara, right? It's like the Sahara Desert used to be a rainforest, right? The reason why it's not now has a lot to do with its availability of water. So it stands to reason that if we were able to irrigate the Sahara Desert in a meaningful way, that we could create the climate necessary to have the plant life to recycle the CO2 from the air and therefore fight climate change.
Um. Okay, and so where would we be doing this?
Well, obviously on the African continent, right? That's where the most unused land is in the Sahara Desert. Nobody like hangs out in the Sahara Desert, right? So it's not like there's cities to have to worry about. So there's not really much infrastructure built up around it. So it's literally just land sitting there that should be being used to. But I mean, I think that's a really good use for it. There's nobody there, so it's not like there's shit to fight over. It really should just be like we can get the people that.
Yeah, but there are countries there though.
Yeah, I get that. So we get these countries. See, and that's where I think in order to get to there, what we need to do is limit the power of our federal government to the point where nations around the world can decide for themselves whether or not they want to have substances legal or illegal in their country, right?
Wait, can you? So you said depower our government to do what exactly again? If I heard that correctly.
Yes, limit the power of our federal government to encourage other nations around the world to join our United States. That way, you know,
mean
if
join
France,
the country like as states.
Yeah.
Why would they want to join a less powerful nation? Wouldn't they want to join a more powerful nation?
Are you kidding me? We are the most powerful nation. There is no nation in the world that their military can rival our own.
Sure, but then wouldn't we be in the best position now for people to want to join the country? I mean,
no.
For other countries, we could like obliterate their debt. The same with like we could do with Puerto Rico, right now. We could absolve them of their debt. That'd be good for them.
Right. So listen. So the thing that what you missed was right now there are things that would have to change in our federal government in order for another nation to feel like that it would be able to control what it wants to do inside its own borders, right? So, like right now, if a nation that had no problem with marijuana or any drugs, for example, and they didn't want to have legislation ruling over them, in order for them to come in underneath our government, they would have to accept the fact that these substances would then be illegal within their jurisdictions. See what I'm saying?
I'm pretty sure it would be, for one, the massive roadblock to this would be, one, like nationalism. Lots of countries still want to be independent countries. So that's one thing. And then as well, like I think we're just too free for a lot of these countries, right? Why would someone like Morocco or whatever want to be able, they still want like religion in their government. We can't do that here. They're like states in like Nebraska that have like crucifixes and like stuff in their halls of like legislatures, and then they get sued and then have to put up statues of like Beelzebub. I don't think that will really pass in like Ghana and Morocco. So I don't think that they would want to do that. You know, there
Right.
are
So
more
that's
roadblocks than just than just the federal government, and also we need the federal government to ratify a state.
right. So my point is that if you limit the powers of things that the federal government gets involved in, and then those things and decisions are left up to the states to decide. I know it's a completely different way of looking at things when it comes to inside the United States right now. It's like, well, I could travel freely from, New York to Colorado, right, and not have any checkpoints and stuff like that because that's inside the free nation. So, like, if Canada became a thing, and they, became the 51st state, right? So then you'd be able to freely drive across the Canadian border because Canada would be a state to the United States. Or if they broke it down into 4 other separate, like the way Canada's already divided up now, each one of those territories, and maybe Canada would actually go away, and it would just be those territories, Quebec, etc., that just joined. You know what I mean?
Would we depower the federal government to not have power over interstate commerce?
Well, I think right now the justification for interstate commerce has been vastly overused. I don't think that what we see interstate commerce today as is the same thing that was saw in the beginning or even 100 years ago.
Yeah, but I think that's a good reason for wanting to change the Constitution a lot. I mean, even like the founding fathers, some of them believe that we should re-ratify a new Constitution every 4 years. I mean, who was it? Was it Jefferson who said that like having the country live by the standards of today, that in the future is like forcing a man to wear the shirt that he had as a boy. Like the foundations of seeing the Constitution as this like overarching granite stone, like the Ten Commandments, is something that is just new to us. They change the Constitution all the time. It's just kind of weird, but I don't know. I just think that there's no better time than right now to have laws about interstate commerce be taken care of by the federal government, since so much stuff is interstate now.
So you're for more central government control than state government control?
I mean, I think the federal government should be like the main focal point, and then each state should be able to delegate certain things within their borders. I think that seems right. I don't want freaking Arkansas to take control over a lot of the stuff that happens in California and vice versa, because they're completely different places. But at the same time, I think we should all be able to, abide by some certain laws that we can, at least majority of us can work within. I mean, if you really want if you really want central power, like decentralized power, that's what your state, local, and your municipality governments are for. We already have a system set up for this. People just don't care about those anymore. People don't care about their local newspaper. People don't care about their city council anymore. So they're able to just do whatever and run amok and do whatever, while people care about the presidency and the federal government, which has a lot less sway over their direct lives than the municipality do. This is just a move away from things that actually made the country feel more separate. And that's just like a problem with political apathy. That's been a problem. But we could move away from that. And I kind of want to talk about the the thing with like making other country states. If that's okay.
No, that's literally what I'm talking about. Like you point out the problems with the current system, and where federal overreach can be a problem, but at the same time, don't want to preclude the federal government having the ability to be involved, right? And that right there is where there's going to be a problem with other nations being able to get on board with our system
Sure,
in
but I
order to,
but if we like
because look, because
annex,
the reality is that in order to get us to a point to where we can have the land in Africa to build these reactors and irrigate the desert, right? We got to have a system to where they're like, yeah, we don't want the American federal government coming over here to just start doing a bunch of bullshit and telling the people that they can't have whatever local stuff that they use to whatever. You know what I mean? Like they're
we already have
doesn't.
something like this. It's just a treaty. We could just start a treaty and have better international relations. I mean, I could like go to Britain, like people like US people and British people, they could like travel pretty like reasonably like nicely
Oh,
between each
I'm
other.
sorry. I'm sorry. There's something else in my line of thought that you're unaware of. I think. But also because we have the world's strongest military, if we're ever going to be able to reduce the amount of power that it has to be because, like, especially with nuclear weapons, in order to get like rid of nuclear weapons, we almost because our federal government has the most and the most powerful, everybody needs to kind of come underneath that, so then we can start getting rid of. So this is where like a whole, if you're actually looking for a one world government, that would be how you could accomplish it.
Who brought up one world government? I think many
I
governments
don't
could
know.
just
That's
work
it's a
together.
different conversation from another day.
I can see.
Uh, yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to. That's why I'm telling you about it, so you can understand where, like, when I put this kind of thought together, how it started to make sense in my mind. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been paid by Soros that much, so I've not bought into the one world government thing yet. Um, but no, when I we could just start like treaties and get actually like good international relationships instead of just gobbling up new British
Well,
empiring the other countries. That's not a thing. And I mean those countries they're also nationalistic. They like their own individual identity and not being a specific state. That's just something that they want to do. And also, if we annex something like like Saudi Arabia, I want the government to be like no more crucifixions. You know, I mean I'd rather have the federal government take care of that. That's why I mean as like someone whose grandma grew up in a country where she couldn't vote because of like a lot of state laws. I don't think we should leave a lot of things up to the state. They
Well,
seem to
here's
not
the
be
thing.
trustworthy.
But here's the deal: in order to gain admittance, right, these other nations would have to create their own state's constitution, just like all of the states here have their own constitution,
Well, I'm pretty
right?
sure these countries already have like a sort of constitution.
I'm just saying that if they were going to be included into our system, they would have to create those things ahead of time, which would then mean that they couldn't, like, they would all fall underneath the whole, like, cruel and unusual punishment, right? Like, crucifixion would take care of that because that's one of those. So then they would have, when it came to the way that they governed themselves, it would still have to fall within the guidelines of this is the federal constitution for everyone. You see what I'm saying?
But what if that's one thing that they don't want to give up? What if they just really love crucifixion? Then what?
Well, then I guess we have to go take them over, bro.
Just like start invading other countries?
Dude, like, what other solution is there? We got to save the planet.
We could like, stop driving, we could, do what America does and be great and take our, our prowess over being the richest country in the world and do things like give every American and all
oh,
developing nations things like renewable energy, and we could just put money towards it. This country do basically
How
whatever we
great do you
want
think
to
this
do?
renewable energy is?
How great do I think it is? Well, it's been making great advancements in the last couple of years.
Do you understand how the energy is harnessed and where it is stored?
how the energy is harnessed and where is it stored. Well, um, it kind of reminds me of plants. You know, I really like plants. Do I have a plant over here that I can grab? I have one plant. Here we go. This is a plant. This is I don't know if you can see this. This is a Monstera deliciosa. It's a great plant, and just like solar
I
panels, it
I
soaks
can't,
up
but I'll
light.
take your word for it.
Yeah, so it's a great plant. You should see it on stream. It's an amazing plant. I love this plant. Her name is
Okay,
LaQuisha. Um, and
LaQuisha.
yes, and just like
She
plants,
sounds she sounds very elegant.
indeed, I love her holes.
Mm.
Um, and just
Does
like
she have
plants,
nice stems?
beautiful stems. I've been taking care of them. I just cleaned them actually. They have dust on them.
Very
Um,
nice.
and just like plants, they soak up light and then they turn it into energy. If you're talking about the whole like fossil fuels to make renewable energy, I mean yeah, because we run off of fossil fuels right now.
Well, what that's not what I'm talking about. It really comes down to like the solar panels. How do they store the power, and where do they store it,
They put them in batteries,
and what type of power is that?
battery power.
DC power.
Okay.
So there's a difference between electricity that's generated in a wind turbine versus the electricity that's generated um, through solar panels, right? Those wind turbines, they're really not all that great at capturing power. And they usually end up doing more harm to the environment than they do at actually gathering electricity. I mean,
Yeah.
in order for them to really be effective, look at how many they've had to fucking put up, and they don't generate anywhere near the power that's actually needed. And the gross effect that they've had on the environment, I don't feel like justifies their use.
Yeah.
Wind
Also,
turbines have a far less effect on the environment than fossil fuels.
I don't agree with that.
see, here's the thing.
Wait, what
Wind
do you
turbines,
what?
you got birds that fly along the skyline, right? And they hit those wind turbines. And
You know
solar
more
panels, they
birds.
fly into those and they fry because they're so hot. So, so
I'm
they
not
fly
denying that these things happen. If we put up a
right.
stick, it'll probably kill 10 birds a year. Um, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is birds are just stupid. That's just what they do. Um, but wind turbines, solar panels kill far less birds than fossil fuels do. I'm pretty sure fossil fuels kill just in America about 1 trillion birds a year, if I remember that correctly. It's just above cats. And wind turbines, I'm pretty sure, kill around 200,000 birds a year. And solar panels kill a little bit less than that. They are in no way, they're in no way next to fossil fuels where with their damage to the environment. Absolutely
Well,
not.
that's where there's no. Let me put it like this, right? Wind turbines and solar panels are great uh, generators of electricity for a local use, right? Like your home. Small scale, they work. They're great at that kind of thing, but not for large scale,
We'll just
right?
make
Not
them
for,
bigger.
no, that doesn't. They just don't gain the efficiency necessary for the amount of space and harm that they would take up, and
Well, they don't.
that's exactly where nuclear comes into play.
Okay,
So
so
what
wind
I'm
turbine.
saying is, it's like these other forms of power capture have their place, but trying to make them bigger than what they should be will only end up causing more harm than good.
Well, what do you mean should be? How big do you think a wind turbine should be the size of like the one outside of Courage the Cowardly Dog's house, and a solar panel should only be as big as what fits on your roof? What do you mean should be?
Well, how much power do you use in your home?
I have no clue. I usually try and keep as many lights off as possible, and I use a lot of LED lights, so not that much.
Right. I mean, so it's all relative to each individual home. So
But if we make
solar
every
panels,
single home more efficient, then we won't have to worry about how as much power the solar panels and the wind
Okay.
turbines need to use because everything's more efficient. We should just do what America does and make things better. I mean, we did the
right.
whole
So hold
industrial
on.
revolution.
Well, hold on. So if you're going to have the government included in some type of like funding program, which it certainly sounds like you were just advocating for,
I mean,
is that
sounds cool.
correct? Right. So that being said, you think that solving the energy, like fixing the walls and stuff is better than being able to, like, say, if I was actually trying to solve the problem of the amount of energy used, right, versus the efficiency of the home. Like, I think the efficiency of the home is important to a degree, but if I can give somebody a solar panel package with a battery package that hooks up into their home, and then now that's generating the bulk of their electricity, regardless of the efficiency of the home, that's a much better investment for the government to make versus actually going in there and trying to fix the structure itself.
I don't think we need to fix the structure itself necessarily to make things more efficient. Very simple things like new light bulbs, very simple things like recycling some cars, better recycling, more investment in a lot of these things. I mean, we don't invest nearly as much as we do in renewable energy as we do with fossil fuels. I mean, if we did the same for fossil fuels, you'd be spending, everyone would be crying about how to fill up their tank it would cost $150. I mean, we just subsidize the crap out of fossil fuels right now. I just don't I don't get it. Also, I'm quite sure that actually fossil fuels are less efficient than renewable energy. Give me 1 second. If anybody has that on them, can you drop that to me in chat? Because I'm actually pretty sure that renewable energy is close to, if not more efficient than fossil fuels.
You do realize, though, that the entire argument that you're making does not have the infrastructure already in place, and there is already an infrastructure in place to burn fossil fuels in order to keep costs down.
Well, just fix it. Just
It's
don't
not about
don't do
just
that anymore.
fix it.
Well, before
right?
there was an infrastructure for like
entire-
horse-drawn buggies and stuff, but then we changed it to cars. I mean, I don't think we could just fix it. We're the richest country in the world. We can do whatever we want.
No, Dubai, I think, is richer than we are. Because they're driving around in Lamborghinis and everything, so.
Well, I live in a small town in Kentucky, and I saw someone with a Lamborghini.
Oh, Kentucky, okay, you're not far. I'm in Indiana, so.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, not good. Mm.
Did you know I dated a girl who was cousin who was a family member of Mike Pence?
Mm.
She was cute. I liked her. Mike Pence isn't cute though.
It's just Mike Pence.
That's true. At least he won't have a job soon. But
Whoa. Whoa.
But no, fossil fuels are less efficient. We could just change it. I don't get this idea of not wanting to change. Just change it.
I mean,
it's not that
I
it
think
really won't be that
nuclear
hard, especially if we do like a
on
big
a
like
wide
government funding
scale
thing.
could be awesome instead of fossil fuels, but at the same time it's dangerous because if something goes wrong, nuclear is dangerous.
I mean, yeah, it could. I think here in America,
it-
our nuclear facilities are
it
a
clearly
lot
comes
less
down
bad than
to
others.
the idea that when people are ready to not walk over to the switch, flip it, and the light come on, right? Whenever they're ready to not have that, then the infrastructure is what we're talking about building. And if you
Well,
want to build infrastructure, then we need to do it smartly. When it comes to large scale AC electrical use, the smartest way to do that is through steam turbines generated by nuclear fission.
it's funny.
It's not to build to collect the materials necessary to make batteries to then capture the power from the sun to store in those batteries, because there's a loss of power whenever you convert AC or DC electricity to the other. You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Okay, but
So-
I don't know why we can't just like fix it. Just like
You can't fix it because the change in the power transfer still has to occur.
Okay.
Right, so going from DC to AC power is less efficient than if you just had AC power being driven off of a steam turbine to begin with. So the
Okay.
best way
I mean, I'm
forward
not
when it
against
comes
nuclear. I thought this was about. Wait, so do you like or dislike fossil fuels?
I dislike the fossil fuels, but I'm not willing to not use them when there are current electrical needs that need to be met.
Well, we can just make it so they're obsolete. I mean, coal is already becoming obsolete just
Right,
because
and
of
you can do so,
capitalism.
and you can do that through building nuclear reactors. That's the most efficient way to do it. If you're not willing to do that, then
What do
there's
you do with the
nothing
waste?
else. The same thing we've been doing with the waste from all the other reactors that we're in
Oh,
operation of
having
currently.
having like a decades long war about
They have a
who
good
gets what,
plan in
and
place if you want to go look into it, but
well,
there's
why
a
hasn't it been enacted?
All the waste is dumped far underground in like an underground area, so it's out of the way.
Well,
and
we've
they're
been
even
thinking about it,
hold
but
on.
that's
So
not
they're
necessarily true.
hold on. They're not even using the same they're able to use now even uh, radioactive materials that are not as radioactive as far as like the amount of gamma that they emit uh, in most reactors now. We've accelerated nuclear technology to that point.
Hey,
So
one second.
it
Wait, can you tell how does a nuclear reactor make energy?
through fission.
And then what?
It heats water,
Yeah, and then what happens?
and then that heat energy is then used to, like, say, if you wanted to take the heat energy that's created in a primary loop, and then had the heat other water that was flashed to steam through a turbine generator. Now you can generate like AC electricity, or you
So
could use that same heat energy to desalinate seawater and then make fresh water. Right, so it's just literally creating heat energy and then converting other energies into whatever you need it for.
so it's just like a glorified steam turbine. So why don't we just make it a wind turbine? So what's your problem with wind turbines if a nuclear
You
power
need
plant is a
need
turbine?
you need
It takes up way
wind,
too much space.
and you
Way
need
too much.
wind. What if it's not a wind? What if it's not? There's not enough wind. That you don't have energy.
With nuclear, you don't have the kick in the ass of killing the bird populations because there's big turbine winds, vanes flying through the air,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, are you really trying to be an activist for the environment, or are you literally just trying to drive one narrative? And that's the question you got to ask yourself.
Are you
Okay,
against
but
wait, are you against
hitting
buildings?
Am I against buildings?
Yeah, like skyscrapers and stuff.
Not in cities. They need them.
Well, those buildings kill about 1 trillion birds a year.
Yeah. So
but I
And
thought you cared
would
about the birds.
you're not getting the point now.
No, but no, here's my point.
You're not getting the point because those
No.
buildings are over a small part of the land, and what you're literally talking about with these wind farms is hundreds of acres of these spinning things versus just the skyscraper that is inside the city, right? There's a lot of difference there. A lot of difference.
Birds hitting birds does not poison the air, as a person in chat said, but I was gonna say it. Anyways.
also, how often do you think it's not windy enough up there for wind turbines?
I've seen plenty of wind farms where the vast majority of them aren't spinning at all.
Well, I
Just
mean,
sitting there doing
sometimes,
nothing.
but they're usually doing a pretty good job. They only need a wind
Nah.
they only need a wind speed of 9 miles per hour up what? 50, 100 feet? It's I mean, most of the time the winds are going pretty decently for them. And also like still on like the environmental thing, like there's been a years, decades long war about where to put this nuclear waste, and we still don't even have our big nuclear waste facility done yet. And it's just a massive political football that comes up because we have nuclear waste piling up in some place, and it's contaminating places, especially in like more red states like Utah and Idaho and places along there, because we just dump a lot of stuff there, and nobody wants to be the politician to tell their constituents that they're going to be living 50 miles away from a nuclear waste dump. I don't think anybody really wants that. I mean, it's hard. I'm not anti-nuclear power, but it's not like this is an easy thing to do when we're talking about isotopes that have a half-life of like a couple thousand years.
Okay. So what other solution do you have to solve this problem? Because I don't agree with wind turbines, and you're against nuclear. So
Like I said, I'm not against nuclear. I'm just like it's a far more difficult problem than you're kind of making it out to seem, and wind turbines aren't nearly as bad as you make it out to seem. I think that we can do a varied approach to making more energy. Lots of things can do energy. We can do solar. We can do wind. We can do some nuclear. Just mostly get away from fossil fuels. We can do that. That's going to be a very easy thing to do. I think if we just put the money and we have the political will to do it, if we can make that happen. I just don't. I feel like you're making a lot of these ones seem like much harder than they actually are, when the technology is moving extremely fast and fossil fuel is becoming more and more obsolete as time goes on.
I don't think that you're understanding a lot of the needs of the needs of electricity across the planet. That's kind of what I think you're missing, right? It's not that I don't see fossil fuel as an unclean energy. I just see that in order to get to where you want to be, we need to have more nuclear power plants or hydroelectric dams providing this power, not these big ass wind farms and not these big ass solar farms, right? If you want to build skyscrapers and put solar panels on the sides of those, feel free. But I don't want the entire swaths of the land is supposed to be for the environment, and the whole reason why we're doing this thing anyway, just to become wind farms, right? So that we can almost become like Coruscant, right? There still needs to be rural, wild parts of the country out away from the cities, and it doesn't need to be covered in wind farms all over the place. It just doesn't. The best way to do it is through nuclear power plants and distributing the electricity that way in an AC means, and it doesn't have to do a transfer of power from DC to AC.
But the thing is, like, both wind turbines and nuclear power plants make AC current. Because they're both turbines. They're the same thing. Just one
Right, and
uses steam and the other one uses wind.
that also means that if they're not turning, that they're not generating any AC power.
Sure, and when we have to shut down the nuclear reactor for maintenance, it's not making anything either.
That's why they're typically 4 reactors inside of one.
All right.
Yeah, I imagine controlling a nuclear reactor for a power source is a fine line. You mess up and you're in trouble.
True, and still like the
I
waste. I mean, that's like what, like I said, like a massive political issue as well. Also, like research has been done into this before. The U.S. can run off of just wind and solar right now, and meet up to 90% of its actually, depending on how we work on efficiency in the future, we can reach almost 100% of our energy needs right now, which need to come down without creating a massive a detriment to the environment. And that's not even talking about hydroelectricity and biofuel. I mean, I just think that these things are far more efficient than you think. Wind and solar are far more efficient than fossil fuel right now. I'm not sure when it comes to nuclear power plants, but like I said, I'm not even against those. I just think it's a far more nuanced issue than a lot of people want to make it out to be. But we can. I do want to talk about the annexing countries, though.
Well, I mean, I suppose we just have to disagree on the power thing, man. I spent 9 years of my life serving on Ohio-class submarines, right beside a nuclear reactor, and I ran the diesel engine that generated AC power, and we had a battery on board. And I get every single argument as a part of this, and I'm at my conclusion with my understanding of how electricity works.
All right.
I haven't seen chat move.
So like, what's about what's this about
Yeah, I haven't seen chat move either. That's why I'm like, I just wondered if it was still working.
Here's a question for you. So your submarine that you were on for those, you said 9 years, it ran as a diesel engine, like a Cummins or what?
Oh no, it's a Fairbanks Morse, and we don't run the engine all the time. It's only when we need to generate AC electricity.
So how does it move without
ventilate the air.
how does it move without an engine running all the time?
Well, it has a nuclear power plant.
Gotcha. So that's the battery, then it was nuclear?
Well, no. Well, the battery was just the battery.
I gotcha.
right? And then there were turbines that generated AC and DC power, and then the battery was maintained through those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do
that's
you think?
cool.
Do you think that countries like France and Sweden are like torn up with like wind turbines and solar panels and stuff, and like they have a massive environmental footprint because of those? Because those countries are generating over 80% of their power with that.
I think the thing is, people don't like
Are you
change.
talking about Germany, where they're actually importing power from France because they can't produce enough because they got rid of their nuclear reactors?
I was talking about France and Sweden.
I remember reading about. I remember seeing something about Germany that
It's like as soon as you decide to leave the United States, though, now I got to bring other countries into it, though, right?
they had like an excess amount of power during the summer when it was sunny. But then during winter didn't have enough power and they had to import it with
I don't want
solar
to. I don't want to
because it's cloudy.
completely change the subjects or whatever, but I think Shark wanted to go to the subject anyways because I have to go in a second. But are you familiar with the Cold War?
Yeah.
So you do understand that what you are stating is basically what the Soviet Union was trying to accomplish in the Cold War,
What were they trying to accomplish in the Cold War?
or
Well, as per
so
Call of Duty,
huh?
what they were trying to accomplish, like as per Call of Duty, like take over the West.
Yeah, so basically they were trying to enforce communism, and if you know what anything about communism, a perfect communistic world would be everything is communism. So what you're basically stating is like colonial colonialism.
Okay. Did you have a point?
Yes, I'm stating how the U.S. was so against the Soviet Union, and you're wanting now the U.S. to basically do what the Soviet Union was trying to do.
Wait, so the Soviet Union had a federal government that the states should be trying to limit the power of so that we can encourage other nations to join us?
I think he's talking about colonization, just in general.
Right. I'm literally talking about colonization. I'm literally talking about having the other nations of the world join the states.
But I mean, that's a form of colonization.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Mm, I don't think so. I think that if the people make a choice to join a country and become a state, that's not colonization because it's not like we went over there and occupied it first and then said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like these people said, yes, this is what we want and we want to join, and then they went through the process. That's not colonization. It's literally just these people want to do that, right? So
But I feel like it'd be very hard to do that without some coercion. I mean, like earlier in this debate, you
well,
said, "Well,
obviously
I was
there's
what if they don't want to?" And you're just like, "Well, I'm just gonna take them over." So I'm not sure if it's a really
Yeah.
consensual thing.
Yeah.
it
we
just
did
depends
that.
on it depends on how committed you are to the idea of climate change, right?
I
So
don't think we have to colonize any country to solve
I'm
climate
not
change.
talking about colonizing. I'm talking about limiting the power of the federal government to encourage these other nations to join us, so that we don't have the like our federal government wouldn't have the ability to stop them from having guns, right? Like if they want to have guns, they can have guns. It's okay, right? So like we need to scale back our government's involvement so that that nation can be able to handle itself and it have representation in our government just like a state would, and go that route in order to be able to build those reactors on the land to irrigate the desert.
Don't we have
Like
something like this already? Isn't it like NATO or
no,
like
no, it's nowhere near the level of commitment and um, and like ability legally to be able to do. Like if the nation joined in as a state, then it would be very easy for business to say, "Yep, we're going to go build a reactor." Boom, boom, and then like
yeah? But what if the
or
people in that state don't want that?
that would be one of the things that we would be discussing ahead of time, right? So if they don't want to save the planet either, then well, I guess everybody's just fuck the world. We're not going to get our rainforest.
But you just said we should take them over. So
I'm just asking you how committed you are to that idea.
Well, not at all. I didn't bring it up, so it wasn't my idea. I'm not
So-
committed to it at all. But like I said, we can do this without trying to like absorb other countries like Agario. I mean, I think it'd be very funny to have Iran as a state, but like I don't think we like need it to solve climate change. I think the just the literally economic incentive that would be, will invest in your country if you do this and that, would be enough to make a to be good for the world.
Well, you say that, but then where's that money supposed to come from?
The government.
Mm-mm. Does it come from the government? It comes from collecting taxes.
Okay, and
And this is where, when we disagree, right? This is where, like, we're at in like the congressmen are, because I'm like, I don't want big ass wind vanes. I want nuclear reactors, and you're like, well, no, I want this too, and I'm like, no. So either you're willing to bend, or we're not making a deal, right?
or we could just like, take over the Senate and the House and just do it anyways.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, it's
I
a
mean,
decent
it's
idea.
just like, you could, see if there's more support out there for your wind turbine idea than what there is for me not having them and going by way of the nuclear reactor to solve the energy problems of the world.
I think
right?
most
So-
people are more happy with wind turbines and solar panels than nuclear power right now, especially when it comes to the waste problem. But when it comes to just like I said, all we need is just like economic incentives, and I'm pretty sure a lot of these countries would be very happy to move to more sustainable, especially since it's cheaper, especially if we like subsidize it for them. It'd be very easy for these especially developing nations, to swap over to renewable energy, so they don't even have to do like a wild a change from like oil to solar or anything, or like oil to renewable. So that doesn't have to happen. So there's not a shock in the nation. We could just do that for like help them, so we don't have to take. We're already going to be spending the money anyways, so there's no need to try to do a years-long process of confirming them as states and then trying to move stuff over. Just work with them as another nation. I don't know why the idea of, see, the thing you said, like give them the possibility to like do whatever they want, but also then force the. I don't get this idea of reducing the size of government to make it so they would want to be a state, but then enforce a massive power of the state to just drop a nuclear power plant in the middle of their country. Let's just like do economic deals and treaties with them. This sounds like good foreign policy. That we already have a method to do this. I mean, we can take China for example as one.
Well, you'd have to figure out some way to incentivize business to move over somewhere, right? And if a nuclear reactor is a pretty big investment, so I can't see any private organization wanting to build one for the possible money that can be made back off of it, for one, from obviously some type of subsidy or some type of charity money being raised in order to irrigate the Sahara Desert in the name of climate change, right? That's got to be a thing. So it's
I'm
probably
not sure
going
if
to
we
be
even need that. We could just like save the Amazon rainforest. I mean, I'm not even sure if that would even work right now. It's so hard to change a desert back to a deciduous rainforest or whatever. That is an extremely difficult thing to do. Like, and
yeah,
I
but
mean,
what other choice do we have when we have all these other nations around the world that are still up and coming, and they're still using fossil fuels for their
invest in
electrical
them.
needs?
Invest in them.
It's not like we have an unlimited fucking checkbook.
Hey,
It's literally
we
not
do.
like that.
We do actually.
No, we literally
we do.
don't.
Where'd that 1.2 trillion dollars for the CARES Act come from?
Wait, oh man, you're not getting this. This is not how you make a sustainable country.
Yeah, but where'd we get it from? We just wrote the check and we sent it out. Just 1.2 trillion
you're not
dollars, like half of our GDP. We could just do
not
it, and we could also increase taxes on the
dude,
wealthier.
like stop. That's not how this works. It just isn't,
Where'd the
right?
money
You
come
don't
from
have
then?
there's no unlimited checkbook just to be able to say, oh yeah, 50 trillion fucking dollars.
I don't think we need to
Let's
spend
go
50
save a
trillion.
rainforest, right? It's not realistic.
I
That's
don't even
just
think it
silly.
would. I don't think it would take $50 trillion to do any of that. Like just, and also I don't know the idea of moving over business. How about we invest in them so they can make their own business? Like they're smart enough. They're not like illiterate like barefoot monkeys. They're people. They can make their own
Bear
business.
monkeys.
They could make their own business. I believe that. I think they're smart enough to do that. They're countries. We work with them already. So what? Just invest in them so they can make their own business. So they can control their own things there. Like we don't have to like
No,
big brother
no,
babysit them. And like
no,
once again, where'd that 1.2 trillion dollars come from?
no. See, you're not getting it, man. It's all
All
right.
right. Well, I mean, it was fun, definitely. I hope you have a good night. Okay.
Yeah, man, you too.
Yeah. Sleep well. Hello, Quentin.